Ruie and Charlotte were sitting on the bed in her room. There was an awkward silence. Ruie turned to the girl and said that today was fun. Charlotte replied that she had fun too. She suggested repeating the day sometime. The girl said that everything is going according to plan, but that's not all. She thought that she would make him her own today. When others found out that Charlotte had the blood of a hero flowing in her, everyone started making marriage proposals to her. She had an interest in love, but everyone around her was weaker than her. The girl thought about the moment when she met Ruie and realized that at that moment something special happened to her for the first time. She got the slave mark. At that moment, she thought that Ruie was hers and no one else's. Charlotte put her hand on Ruie's arm and addressed him. A little haltingly, she said she became Ruie's slave. He awkwardly agreed. The girl told Ruie that since he had a slave, did he want anything? She told him to watch and put his hand on her heart. Charlotte said she could be touched. Ruie was confused by her words. So he froze for a while and his cheeks turned red. Ruie remembered Destarosa. She told him that they were pleased that he loved them, but he didn't have to burden himself. If he finds someone dear to him in his world, they won't be angry. Ruie was surprised at that moment. Rio laughed in response and said that, as Destarosa said, only people are monogamous. It's normal for a male dragon to have multiple females. Destarosa said that demons have the same thing. Aristocrats have dozens of girls. Ruie replied to the girls that he did not think he would be able to do what they were talking about. Destarosa told him not to overdo it anyway. The demons told him that if he had a man he would want to protect, he must act without regret. Ruie agreed. Rio said meanwhile that Destarosa is the kind of person who is jealous. She was indignant. She said she was Ruie's big sister. Rio started arguing and said she was older. Rio was trying to reconcile them again. While Ruie was thinking about his two older sisters, the girl with pink Charlotte called out to him again, placing her hand on his knee. Ruie thought that he started talking to Charlotte to find out about the hero. But after fighting, talking and walking with her, he realized that she was beginning to attract him more and more. Now Ruie wants to protect that girl who is sitting next to him on the bed and laughing merrily. Ruie realized that he wanted to be with her. Charlotte was looking at Ruie at the time and unbuttoning her shirt. Ruie blushed and nervously swallowed his saliva. He timidly turned to Charlotte and asked if he could. He approached the girl and wrapped his arms around her waist. Charlotte did not expect such a step and was embarrassed. Their lips touched. The girl melted in Ruie's arms. They continued to sit close to each other, touching lips. Ruie gently lowered Charlotte onto the bed, holding her head. He began to unbutton her clothes and pulled her skirt down from her hips. At that moment, Charlotte stumbled and shyly shouted for Ruie to stop. She started to tell them to stop for today, but she didn't have time to finish. Ruie told her that everything was fine. He promised that he would be gentle with her. Charlotte blushed. She replied to him that if he was gentle, she would agree. Ruie started to pull down his pants and bent over Charlotte. She shyly shouted that she couldn't fit into it. The girl started telling him to wait. Charlotte wanted to ask Ruie for something, but she didn't have time to finish. It's been a while. Outside the window of the house, birds chirped merrily. Sitting on a tree branch, Ruie and Charlotte were walking along the road between the trees. Charlotte told Ruie that she had a pain in her waist. Ruie asked worriedly if everything was all right and offered to cast regeneration magic. Charlotte kicked Ruie's leg indignantly. She told him to be quiet and think about his behavior better. Charlotte said that she was angry at Ruie. She told him to take responsibility and become her boyfriend. Ruie calmly agreed. He told her that he was a man, so he would take responsibility. Charlotte was happily surprised. She asked Ruie if he would say that he was joking, but the guy told her that he would not say such a thing. On the way, Ruie and Charlotte met some guy. He called out to them and asked if they were the same applicants. The guy stood at the head of two more of his friends and grinned menacingly. He told the couple that they looked weak. The guys rudely turned to Charlotte and asked if she was the hero's granddaughter. They said she was cuter than expected and asked if she would prefer them to a weakling like Ruie. The girl got angry at their words and grabbed the handle of the sword. She said that if they approached her, she would stab them. The gang leader chuckled. He told Charlotte not to say that and pulled his hand towards the girl. Ruie walked over to Charlotte and hugged her to him, holding her by the shoulder. He grabbed the pestering guy by the arm and said that Charlotte was his. The girl confusedly whispered to Ruie to wait and not talk like that in front of other people. The guy from the gang got angry and used his power to release a fireball. Ruie angrily shouted at him, asking why he was using magic in the city. He asked that guy what he would do if magic hit passersby. Ruie thought he needed to stop that guy before anyone got hurt. He used the force and lifted a stone into the air. He shouted that it was a stone machine gun and launched it at the head of the guy who pestered them on the way. His gangmates were scared. They hurriedly apologized and, grabbing their leader by the arms, ran away. Rui smiled and offered his hand to Charlotte and invited her to go. Charlotte happily agreed. The girl told him that they were going to be late and suggested that they hurry up. A crowd of people stood against the wall. Approaching them, Rui exclaimed joyfully. He was surprised at how many people were standing in front of him. Charlotte replied that he would not stand out, otherwise they might start joking about him. She added that all his opponents were here. Rui, not listening to her, ran to the crowd and shouted that the results had been posted. Charlotte indignantly shouted after him to listen to what she was saying. Rui peered into the crowd. He also clarified with Charlotte that there were classes from A to E where he was going. The girl confirmed it. Students are distributed according to academic performance, the best in Class A. Charlotte said they were probably in Class A. Rui called out to Charlotte. He pointed her to a Class Z list that had their names on it. Rui asked what it was. The girl, angry, shouted that she did not know. She added that there had never been such a class before. Then a guy with blonde hair and a blue jacket approached the couple. He greeted them and said that they were very lively in the morning. The guy said his name was Yuri and held out a little. He remembered that this was the first time Rui had seen the guy standing next to him. That guy was wearing a shirt and a knight's helmet on his head. Yuri said that this was his escort, Ibuki Earnhardt, and added that he hoped they would be pleased to meet. Rui greeted the strange guy and shook his hand. The guy replied that he was pleased. He said his name was Ibuki, and he was guarding Yuri. As an introduction, Ibuki gave Rui a piece of candy. He offered a piece of candy to Charlotte, but she refused. Yuri said that Ibuki is funny. He said that in order not to show his face, his guard wears a helmet. Yuri added that Ibuki is good, and that he hopes that they will become friends with Rui. Then Charlotte turned to Yuri. She asked what it was. Yuri clarified that she was talking about the Z class. He said he wanted to surprise her, so he didn't tell her. Charlotte got angry and told the guy to explain everything. Yuri said that this is a new class that has appeared since this year. Initially, the students were distributed according to academic performance, but this year they decided to bring students with special abilities to the Z class. Yuri called them high-class cranks. But then Yuri added that Rui and Charlotte would have been in Class A. But they turned out to be too good, so, based on his decision, he assigned them to Class Z. Charlotte was outraged. She asked Yuri if he was following them. The guy replied that she might think so. He added, by the way, that no matter what Charlotte and Rai do, he won't tell anyone anything, so they don't have to worry. Charlotte walked up to Rai and took his hand. She replied that if they were together with Rui, she would agree. They turned around and walked away from the interlocutors. Ibuki addresses Yuri, calling him His Majesty, and asks why they need to keep an eye on Charlotte and Rui. Yuri grinned and said, "Really, Ibuki doesn't get it. There are only bullies in Class Z. Even Yuri himself finds it difficult to keep track of them, but he thinks Rui can do it." At this time, Rui was telling Charlotte on the way that they needed to change into their uniforms. Ibuki tells Yuri that if he is so looking forward to it, he will bet a lot on Ruishu. Yuri laughed in response. He noticed that he was wondering what kind of class it would be and said he couldn't wait. Charlotte said that they had changed their clothes. She said she wanted to see what kind of class of weirdos it would be. The couple entered the classroom. Charlotte told Rui that she hoped they would make friends. The guy with the red hair came up to Rui and called out to him. He asked him if he was the one who won the duel in the exam. Rai confirmed it. The guy with the red hair bent down and leaned his hands on Rui's desk. Charlotte, who was sitting next to her, grabbed her sword, preparing to defend herself. The guy with the red hair stared at Ruixia menacingly. He suddenly grabbed Rui's hand and said that that duel was very good. That guy started saying that he hadn't felt such fervor in a long time. He asked how Rui was able to win empty-handed against the sword, and said that magic was not bad either. The guy with the red hair added that the heat from Rui's flame was reaching right up to him. Rui thanked him timidly. The guy said his name was Burn, and added that he was good at explosive magic. He said that the big guy behind him was called Takabe, and the little one was called Mefer, and that he hoped they would all become friends. Everyone in the class told Rusa that they were pleased to meet him. He replied that he was also pleased. Guys and girls came up to Rusa and greeted him. One of the girls in a gray beret and coat showed Rusa a huge caterpillar in her hands. Then a guy with cat ears came up to Rui. Rui greeted him, but the guy in response angrily bared his teeth and left. Rai anxiously asked Charlotte if he had done something wrong. Charlotte told him not to be afraid, and added that beastmen dislike humans. Rui asked why this was the case. The girl replied that he was from the village, and therefore did not know about it. It is forbidden in the capital, but in other large cities they still get beastmen slaves. Therefore, many beastmen dislike humans. Ruie was upset. He wondered if he would ever be able to make friends with that boy, the beast man. Then Ruie noticed a beautiful girl sitting by the window. He thought she looked just like a painting. Ruie came over to greet this girl, but she did not answer him. Charlotte was angry. She shouted to that girl, "How dare she ignore Ruie?" The girl apologized and calmly looked at Ruixia. She asked if he had spoken to her. She added that she had nothing to talk about. Charlotte was angry. She attacked that girl at the window, but she remained calm. Ruie held her while she screamed at him to let her go. Yuri watched them from the sidelines. He told Rusa that it looked like he had already made friends with everyone here. Then he noticed that the teacher was already coming. Charlotte indignantly said that now she would have to see that girl in class every day. Yuri mockingly said how serious she was. Yuri turned back to Rusa, already sitting at his desk. He said that this time, as a classmate, he was pleased to meet him. The Royal Magic Academy of Ruie. The first year, Class Z. Ruie thought with a smile that his life at the academy began here. There is a lesson in the classroom. The teacher says that in this way, water magic uses moisture from the atmosphere. Then someone turns to the teacher and says that surely water magic can also control groundwater. Ruie says this with a thought that his sister told him so. The teacher is surprised and asks if this is really true. This is the first time he has heard about it. Ruie then offers to show him. The teacher asks if he can. Then he suggests going outside to practice. Everyone gets up and is outraged that the lesson is on the street again. Yuri thinks it's been 2 weeks since admission. The teacher asks Ruie how he learned this, and he replies that he heard it somewhere. Yuri thinks that thanks to Teacher Legas, he can study everyone. But it's still good that he made him the homeroom teacher of Class Z. All the classmates crowded around Ruie and said how he clearly explains what was expected of him. They return to the classroom after a while and see that the chairs have been broken. The girl anxiously asks who did all this. Ruie turns to Tisa and says that he wants to ask for something. He asks what he wants. Ruie says that he thinks to find out who did it. He must have left traces. He asks Tissy if he can help. He answers, "Why not?" and agrees. Tisha shows her magical analysis. Ruie says that this is what he expected from him. Ruie says he is surprised by his wide-ranging analysis magic. Tisha says it's because of him. He believes that this way he could analyze no more than one table. He achieved this thanks to the fact that he trained him after lessons. Tisha notices someone's hair, and also footprints. He says it's from a classmate's shoes. He cunningly asks if they thought to deceive him. Ruie says he can't be fooled. The latter thanks him for such words. Tisha says that he is a halfling, and he was expelled because he knows how to use magic. Ordinary halflings have little magical power. He says that he was accepted in this class. So strange. For the first time, he is glad that he can use magic, because now he can be useful. Ruie looks at him with admiration. Tisha says that here is the information that he invaded. Giving him a piece of paper, he thanks him. Ruie asks if he will go with them. Tisha says that he does not like to deal with skirmishes. Tisha asks if he can handle it. Ruie smiles and says to rely on him. Here the other guys are shouting that it's their turn now. They want to find it faster. Ruie says they will show the culprit Class Z. They come to Class A. One guy asks Ruie if they can start. They say in advance that they will fix everything later, and then kick the door that the girls inside are scared. They come in and say that since they've started a fight, they're ready. They're screaming that they found out that they did it, so let them come out. The students inside are whispering, "Is this really the same class?" The girls are giggling and asking what's going on. Ruie says it looks like they're going to pretend to be innocent. An aristocrat comes out to them and asks if they are students from Class Z. Why are they making such a fuss? Ruie looks at him and thinks that he has seen him somewhere, like he is from the aristocracy. Ruie apologizes for being so sudden, but someone cheated on their class, and they're looking for who did it. The aristocrat says it's a pity, but isn't it a little early to suspect them? Besides, they have a lot of students from disadvantaged families in their class. He says that the poor and the mind is impoverished. Is it not better to suspect among your own? Rui's friends start to get angry. Ruie tells Byrne that they want to piss him off. Byrne is outraged. Does he really suggest just shut up and watch? Ruie replies that he does not and asks you to rely on him. He takes a piece of paper out of his pocket. They ask him what it is. He says that the hair that they found in their class. His friend examined it. It did not match the hair of the students in their class. The aristocrat asks how he found out. Ruie says that he has students in his class with the same hair color. Ruie says that they did an analysis at the genetic level and compared, so to speak. Then he offers to explain briefly. He uses time backwards. The hair begins to sparkle and makes this hair fly to the head of this aristocrat. He panics and asks what he did. Ruie replies that it is magic that returns time. He says that the hair has returned to the head of the one from whom it grew. That is, this hair belongs to this aristocrat. He is horrified and does not understand how he knows this. Not even all high-class magicians can use time magic, and how such a simpleton from the village knows this? He screams in rage that he does not recognize him. He points his magic stick at Ruie. Ruie asks what he is going to do. He replies that he will clean it. He is going to remove it from here. He turns to the others and tells them to get ready too. Everyone is not moving. Complete silence. Ruie says that pointing wands for no reason is not just against the rules of the school, but the law in general. He claims it's self-defense. Ruie begins to act and apologizes to Burn for waiting and tells all the guys that they cannot hold back. It's time for retribution. Ruie apologizes to Burn for waiting and says that now you cannot hold back. The aristocrat shouts to his men to shoot. Ruie notices that people are gathering at the classroom. It is necessary that they do not get hit. One of them shouts that it's his turn. He's calling the middle wall. The aristocrats don't understand how their magic is blocked by such average magic of the commoners. Barn tells Dakaba that he's done well, and that he'll deal with them next. He uses his super bomb technique. After that, the aristocrats' wands just break. The aristocrat's name is Goro. His classmates say that they should have easily won. He tells them to shut up and shoot them. They say that their chopsticks are broken. They begin to realize that they will not succeed, after which they panic. One of them blocks the road and says that they can't escape because they started all this. They get angry and swing their fists. Then he uses leg reinforcement, with which he gets away from the blow. They realize that they can't hit it. The boy tells them that they are too slow. They already want to yawn. They don't understand where he went. The boy appears, kicks and says with a laugh that he probably overdid it. Goro looks at him in horror. Ruie confidently walks towards Goro, who falls and backs away, asking not to approach. Ruie grabs him by the throat and says that he started it himself. So who's the bad guy here? He immediately apologizes and says that he will do anything. Just let him forgive him. Ruie speaks not only to him, but to everyone else. He says they can call him whatever they want, but he won't forgive those who harm his friends. He hits Goro's stomach hard enough that his back hits the wall and breaks it for good. He lies unconscious. Ruie stands in front of him with a clenched fist. The students of the Z class are smiling happily and proudly. Yuri shouts to everyone that this is too much, and he just got distracted from them. What should he tell his father? All four of them are sitting in front of him with guilty faces. Burn starts saying that they started it first. Yuri shouts at him to shut up, and then says that it's actually his own fault that he didn't keep up. But if they had made even a little mistake, it wouldn't have been so easy. He asks me to think about his head on his shoulders at least a little. Everyone obeys him, after which Yuri tells everyone that they are free. Ruie later approaches Yuri's desk and apologizes, saying that he probably got hurt. He doesn't say anything and just accepts it. He says that when he decided to make this class, he expected from the very beginning that this would happen often. Ruie looks at him awkwardly and guiltily. He says that next time he will speak in advance and apologizes again. Yuri asks him about it, barely speaks and falls asleep right at his desk. Ruie realizes that he was dealing with what they had done and did not get enough sleep. He becomes uncomfortable. Ruie looks out the window and wonders if everyone is training. He sees the girl telling the other that she has improved too. Ruie turns away and decides to go for a walk too. He leaves the audience. Some guy greets him and asks if he is the same Ruizia. He apologizes for being so sudden and says that she is from class 2A. Her name is Zion. He says it's nice for her to meet him. He says the same thing and shakes his hand. Ruie thinks what a mysterious person is in front of him. There is no negativity coming from him, as if holy energy is coming from him. Ruie asks him what he needs. Zion replies that it was just like that. I was wondering what he looked like because there are rumors about him. He asks what the rumors are. He replies that of course about yesterday's attack on class 1A. Ruie smiles awkwardly. Zion giggles and says that now they have set the heat. They have even spread to the second graders. He says that they are having fun and that they are having a good life. Ruie sighs and says thank God it's fun. Zion tells him that this is good. He puts his hand on his shoulder and tells him not to think that everything will go the way he thinks. Zion tells him that he is really strong, but there are stronger and scarier people in this world. Ruie looks and thinks, what kind of charisma? There are some here. Ruie bows to him and thanks him for the warning, but adds that he is fine. He knows two people who are stronger than him. Zion smiles and says he shouldn't have worried then. He walks away and says that he needs to go, and that they will see each other again. Ruie is left alone with thoughts of how mysterious he is. Zion walks down the hall with the same smile. Ruie loudly flops down on the bed face down, clutching the sheet and screams how tired he is. Today they were busy repairing the destroyed classroom. He conjured and restored a wall or a board that had a huge hole in it. He fixed it alone. Now there will be no one else who will encroach on Class Z. He closes his eyes, gradually falls asleep, and says that, in general, thank God that there is. That is. He yawns, stands up in the same school uniform. He pulls up his hands. The other wipes away tears and says, "Is it really morning?" He is surprised and looks around. He realizes that he is not in his bed. He wonders if this is an endless hell. He looks around. Everything is bright and white. He screams why he's here again. Then he remembers something. He realizes that if this is an endless hell, then his sister and Ruie will help him. He decides to find them by searching for magical power. He uses this magic and is surprised by the result, not believing that he does not feel anything. Terrified, he wonders again if this is exactly endless hell. Then someone appears and in a humble tone tells him to be calm. The girl with long white hair says that this is the endless hell. She calmly takes a sip of tea from the mug and invites Ruie to join her and sit next to her. She is wearing a light white dress with a slit at her feet. Ruie keeps wondering who she is. He doesn't feel hostility from her, but decides that it's worth being on the lookout. Ruie awkwardly apologizes and approaches the table. The girl tells him not to be embarrassed. She pours him tea with a plant petal and tells him to drink it, and then calm down. Ruie raises her mug doubtfully and suspiciously, looking at the tea in silence for a long time. He drinks his tea at once, while that girl looks at him with a victorious expression, holding her cup. Ruie relaxes and tells her that it's delicious. The girl openly smiles at him and says that it's good. Ruie finally asks, still confused, who she is. He is surprised to think that she has just laughed. The girl introduces herself and says her name is Oka. She says that the ogre left her to manage this endless hell. She lowers her relaxed and cunning eyes. Ruie immediately gets up from the table and prepares his fists, which does not touch in any way and causes reactions of Oki. She tells him not to be afraid, explains that she is not his enemy. She calmly drinks her tea from the cup again. Ruie is in a panic and to some extent screams in fear. Then why did they need him? Why is he here again? She calmly answers him that the reason is simple. She says clearly that he has lifted the seal from the endless hell. Ruie continues to stare at her in surprise, still not lowering his fist. His mouth opens slightly. He asks in shock if he really took it off. Oka asks him if he got an item from the hero in the real world. She explains that, thanks to him, the seal fell off. Ruie lowers her eyes from understanding what Oka is talking about. He reflects that the time he held Charlotte's sword, he felt some kind of power from it. He guesses that it was then that the seal was lifted. Oka tells him that he and Endless Hell are connected. She tells him that if he collects all the hero's items, the seal from the Endless Hell will be completely removed. He asks joyfully and in surprise if this is really true. He immediately begins to think, if this is the case, then if he asks Charlotte for help, it will be better than looking for a hero who is unknown whether he is alive or dead. Ruie thinks of it and asks in doubt. She runs this place. Why does she tell him how to remove the seal? She sadly says that this is because the goal of Endless Hell has already been achieved. On the contrary, it is strange that the Endless Hell still exists. He asks in shock if the goal of Endless Hell has been achieved. He does not understand and asks what it means. He asks another question. Why did the hero seal the Dragon Queen and the Demon Queen? Oka apologizes to him and says that he has no right to tell this. Ruie is not satisfied with this. He asks, but how is it? He asks to tell him at least something. He insists on asking her. She looks down, apologizes again. Ruie looks at her in silence and bewilderment, enjoying her reaction. He asks if she can then tell him why she shouldn't, and if he will return to his world. Here, Oka gets up from the table and explains that he is not physically here right now, so he will definitely return. His body is now sleeping deeply. She ends her explanation by saying that he was called here to train Ruie. At these words, she pulls out a sword and points the point of the sword directly at him. He does not understand and asks again how to train him. He stands in front of her in a stupor, doing nothing. Oka says that now her goal is to remove the seal from the Endless Hell. For this, he needs to become stronger. She tells him to draw his sword, but he is not with him. Then Oka tells him to just think about him, and then he'll show up. He imagines a golden sword appearing in his hands. He holds it aloof and says that it really appeared. Oka asks him if he is ready. Without waiting for an answer, she says that they are starting their training. Ruie is standing in a stupor. Oka swings his sword and strikes at head level. Ruie manages to dodge and sit down, thereby saving his head. He begins to realize in horror that his head almost flew off. He continues to sit further, clutching his hands to himself. Oka tells him that she forgot to tell him, if he dies here, he won't wake up in reality anymore, so he has to be careful. She attacks again. He runs away and screams that he should have said it in advance. What should he do if he dies? Oka says that if he dies by her hand, he would have died long ago just walking along the road. This training is also an exam. He defends himself from her blows and thinks that this is her strength. She is like a sister with Rio. But swordsmanship is stronger than the two of them, in his opinion. Oka says that his reaction is not bad, but he does not use a sword very well. It seems that he was not taught how to use a sword. He coughs and says that he may not be as good as her, but he has the techniques they taught him. He talks about Qigong, the fourth attacking technique. He uses a bless. He attacks. She deflects the blow with her sword, holding it in a horizontal position. She grins and asks if he has made himself stronger with the Qigong technique, which is very interesting for her. She says it looks like he can hold out a little longer. She attacks him sharply. He winces and barely holds on. He thinks she's so fast. His eyes can't keep up. He's barely breathing and says it's not time yet. He waves his sword and uses a super boost. A bright light comes out from his sword. He attacks with it. It reflects again. Oka lowers the sword. He immediately uses a magical body, a true slice of space. Oka suddenly says that it is clear to her, and that this is enough. She says with a smile that his strength lies in the fact that he is not limited to the form. He immediately attacks without hearing her words. He uses the technique of the heroic heart Sakura attack. She creates a barrier in front of her, but it breaks down from the pressure of the hand. Then he realizes that this is his last chance. However, his mind gets muddled. He begs himself to hold on for a little longer, but falls on Oki's arm without strength. Oka giggles happily and tells him that she didn't mean to kill him. She thinks his little body did a great job. She tells him that his fate is hard and cruel. May Sakura's blessing come with him, and may many save him. She kisses him on the forehead and tells him in the light that she relies on him because the fate of the world is in his hands. Rui's body disappears in Oki's arms. Ruie wakes up in his bed and moans, saying that his whole body hurts. He quietly lifts himself up on his hands and accepts that he overdid it yesterday. He examines himself and says that, by the way, there are no wounds. That is, he really has not been physically in an endless hell. The magic body is an advanced technology that mixes magic and Qigong. If you combine it with a measurement section, you will get a real measurement section. He succeeded the first time, but immediately after he lost consciousness, he looks at his hand. He thinks that with an opponent of his equal strength, even if he is armed, magic and Qigong can be used to fill the gap in his swordsmanship technique. But he remembers about Aoka and thinks maybe she's better than him. He says emphatically that it is necessary to learn how to use a sword. At this time, all his classmates notice that he is coming to them and wish him a good morning. He comes up and asks what they are doing here at recess. They answer that they have nothing else to do. Ruie asks them if he has already come. Everyone points to this man. Ruie comes over and asks Ibuki if he can talk to him. Ibuki, wearing a mask, lies on the grass, pays attention to him, and says that he is surprised that he needs something from him. Ruie asks him about Yuri. Is he really at work now? He replies that it is, and that he was kicked out again. He told Yuri that he ran after the cat, but the cat at work first asked for forgiveness, and then asked if he could leave for a while. Ibuki asks Ruie what it is. He replies that he really needs him to teach him how to use a sword. Ibuki thoughtfully asks if it's really him. Ruie. He says he doesn't have to use it. And wouldn't it be better to ask Charlotte? Ruie says that he will ask her too, but she attacks them, and Ibuki protects them. Ruie declares that he wants to learn both techniques. He says without enthusiasm that it is clear to him. Then he agrees with Ruie and says that he will give him the hereditary sword technique of protecting the king. Ruie immediately thanks him with special joy. Ibuki then asks him if he can teach him magic in return. Ruie looks at him in surprise and asks again. Then he agrees too and explains the stopper by saying that he is just a little surprised. Ibuki says that he looks at how everyone is trying. Everyone has started to influence him. He says with embarrassment that he usually shirks, but if he is with everyone else, he believes that he will succeed. Ruie sincerely smiles at him and then offers to become stronger together. Ibuki joyfully shouts that he will try moderately. Ruie is surprised to ask what moderate means. He awkwardly asks if it's really not necessary. He points his finger up and says that people don't die that easily. This phrase scares Ibuki a little. A little later, they train. Ruie swings a sword, imagining Oki. Ruie grazes Oki's forehead with a sword, which causes her to bleed. She then tells him with a smile that he has improved. She says that it looks like he is training. Ruie claims that he has many teachers. He is taught by guys who are good with a sword. Oki is surprised to say that he is serious. She says the time is coming. She then offers to take a break. Later, they drink tea. Ruie remembers and asks, "It's an endless hell. So why aren't my sister and Rio here?" She replies that this is because they are on another floor of the endless hell with him. This is the first floor closest to his world. She tells me that the Demon Queen and the Dragon Queen are on the deepest third floor. He is surprised, abruptly gets up from the table, almost pours tea and asks if this is so. Then there is another second floor where he has never been. He asks if there is someone there too. Oki replies that it is, but she cannot tell him who is there. She guiltily lowers her eyes and says that she is forbidden. He sits back down at the table in frustration and sighs. He thinks with disappointment, oh, this hero. Oki remembers something and turns to him. She says it looks like he met the hero's granddaughter in his world. He asks her if she's really talking about Charlotte. He immediately thinks to himself that Oki rarely asks questions. He confidently tells her that he and Charlotte are friends. He immediately begins to tell her that at first she disliked him, but after the duel their relationship changed dramatically. She screamed at him that she couldn't lose to someone like him. Ruie didn't like it either. Oki says it's a pretty interesting introduction. Ruie immediately says that she is really lonely. He starts talking about her, that she still wants to become stronger for others, and that she is very sweet and good. Oki listens to him, reacts indifferently, sips her tea and says that, apparently, she lives happily. Ruie confidently says that it is, and that she also helps him with her cheerfulness. He drinks tea, sees himself and says that he is already starting to be transparent. This time it has been about 6 hours. He really starts to glow and disappear. She says that, in his opinion, they will have to say goodbye soon. She reminds him and asks him to continue training when he gets back to his place. Ruie thanks her for today. Here Oki turns to him in a serious voice, and he turns his attention to her. She doesn't want to say it, but she asks him to beware of the sect of being. He does not understand and asks again what kind of sect of being. She says again that she can't tell you the details. However, when he prints out the endless hell, he will definitely have to contact her. She instructs him not to think about delving into her for anything, and let him be on his guard. Otherwise, he will be left with nothing. Ruie looks at her in surprise, disappears, and only obeys her. Oki looks after him warmly and lovingly. As soon as he disappears, Oki lowers her head. Her grip on the bowl softens. She continues to sit with a sad face, only asking him to be careful. A crowd of students walk down the street. Ruie stretches and says with a sigh, how boring it is at recess. He says Charlotte is busy. She apologized to him and said that today she had business that could not be postponed. Ruie says that it was necessary to negotiate with someone and take a walk. He talks out loud while someone is talking. It's almost noon. He's a little hungry. He thinks he can eat somewhere. Ruie immediately warms his ears when he hears about delicious food. He sharpened all 5 senses. He hears some sounds and assumes that there is some kind of showdown somewhere. Why is he doing this? He sees that someone is shouting in front of the knights that he said it wasn't him. A guy with sharp teeth is arguing. This is Wolf. Ruie says it turned out to be a wolf after all. It's the first time he's met him anywhere other than in class. He wonders what happened. An old man tells Wolf not to lie. He keeps defending himself. The crowd begins to thicken. Ruie asks the knight what happened. He asks him why he's doing this. They're dealing with him now, so it's better not to approach. Ruie claims that his classmate is there. He asks if this little beast is really his classmate. He asks if he can talk to him then, because Wolf is evil and nothing can be learned from him. Ruie agrees. Wolf screams. How many times does he have to say it again? He already told them that he just found it. That old man points his finger at him and asks who else could have done this, which is why he hates human animals. Here Wolf looks at this old man in horror and anger. He wants to attack out of rage. Then Ruie intervenes and asks them to stand. They both pay attention to him and freeze in place. Ruie asks them what happened. Wolf angrily asks why he is here. Ruie awkwardly tells him, come on, what's he doing? The old man immediately asks if he knows him. He shouts that this beastman stole his expensive goods. He asks to tell Ruie to return this product to him. Wolf repeats again that he has already said that he did not steal anything. Ruie continues to stand and asks them to at least tell them what happened. The old man starts talking about his store. A thief got into Markov's store. When he moved away, the glass turned out to be broken. All the most expensive things were stolen. Immediately after calling the police, he decided to look for the thief himself. Then he saw Wolf and he had his goods. The old man screams at him that he couldn't do it alone, so they helped him. He asks where they took so many of his goods. Ruie thinks to himself that it is clear to him. It's true that there is no proof that Wolf is a thief, but there is no proof that he is not guilty. Discrimination against beastmen has long been ingrained, but it was regulated by law. Long-term resentment will not disappear so easily. He had often heard that beastmen were often accused without reason, so he could be caught without proof. Here Ruie declares that then he will find the real thief himself. The old man and Wolf look at him in surprise. The old man asks in a rage what kind of a real thief. What is he even saying? Because Wolf is a thief, he has a bottle. Wolf screams in anger. Is he deaf? He told him that he just found her. Ruie tells them that words can't help things right now. He turns to Wolf and asks if he runs fast. He asks what he is doing. Then he replies that he is faster than people. Ruie says it's clear to him, and that's fine. Then he uses magic and summons a smoke haze. Indeed, smoke is coming out around them. Wolf looks at him in surprise. The old man doesn't understand what's going on at all. He immediately takes them by the hand and tells them to come here. The old man looks around suspiciously and doubtfully. Then he realizes that neither Ruie nor Wolf is with him. He screams that this worm has escaped. He begins to report that the knights have been watching him since he ran away. They apologize to him and say that they will find him right away. The knights begin to discuss what to do, because he is very fast. One of them says that there is one guess. He says they must be students of the Magic Academy. If that's the case, then the other one happily guesses. He says he should just ask her to help. She's probably at the royal palace right now. One shouts to the other to go quickly to ask for her help, and he will look for him. The second one listens to the first one. At this time, Ruie and Wolf are sitting on the roof of the house. Ruie tells the other that they have separated. He agrees with him. Wolf asks him why he is like this, because even a group of knights can start chasing him. Ruie smiles and says that he just needs to find the culprit as soon as possible. Wolf looks at him awkwardly. He asks him why he got involved in this at all. He suspects and asks if he is up to something. Ruie says that this is not the case. Wolf asks in anger, then why is he spinning underfoot? Ruie says with a smile that they are friends, because it's obvious. Wolf doesn't understand what he's talking about and is even redder. He thinks to himself that he growls at him every day, but he doesn't care about it. He looks at Ruie's smile in surprise. He doesn't understand what his goal is. He probably also thinks beastmen are bad, because all people are like that, in his opinion. Ruie then tells him to go with him to where Wolf found this bottle. He stands up and holds out his hand. He agrees and leads him. They come to a place that looks like a corridor. Wolf says it was kind of here somewhere. Ruie examines and says that there are no traces. He asks the wolf if he still has this bottle. He searches for something in his pocket and says that. However, he still has it. He hands him the bottle in response to a request to give it to him for a while. Ruie puts the bottle on the floor and uses magic analysis, stretching out his hands to the thing. Wolf is watching him. Suddenly, traces begin to appear on the bottle. They went in a certain direction. Wolf is surprised to ask what kind of magic this is. He explains that this is the magic of analysis. His friend taught it. Wolf looks surprised and asks what other friend. Ruie says that they also have Tisha in their class, who is a halfling. He believes that he is very skilled, so he taught him. He smiles broadly and tells Wolf that he's not as good as him yet. He gets up and calls for Wolf to follow in his footsteps. Wolf follows him, asking him to wait. They run. Ruie sincerely admires and tells Wolf how fast he is. On the contrary, he is outraged that he is too fast for a person, what he is like in general. Ruie then suggests that he run faster. He wonders if it's even faster. He shouts that he will not let himself be overtaken. They stop. Ruie sighs and says that they have finally arrived. From behind, a panting wolf regains his breath. Ruie sees and says that it must be this barn, because the magical footprints lead them inside. Wolf just follows him and obeys. Ruie gives Wolf the bottle and says he will return it to him, thanking him for it. He awkwardly takes it from him. Wolf thinks suspiciously about this barn. Apparently he knows it. They open the door, wanting to get inside as soon as possible. Then Charlotte comes to them and tells them to stand. She finally found them. Ruie doesn't understand and asks why she's here, if she's been following them all this time. She says with a sigh that she came here for them. Did they really think there was any other reason? She apologizes in advance and says that she searched for them with the help of magic power. She admits that it was difficult for her. Ruie remembers something and wonders if the knights were talking about her when they wanted to quickly ask someone for help. He asks her if she really came to catch them. The atmosphere changes. Charlotte smiles and says that it is. She came for them. Today, she was invited to the royal palace to be a magic instructor for warriors, and then suddenly a request came to find them. She was told that the black-haired student of the academy ran away very quickly. Ruie awkwardly says that he understands. He asks her again, meaning she needs to catch them. Wolf begins to tense up and prepare his claws. She lets out a laugh and says that he probably just got involved in some troublesome showdown. Wolf is surprised, and Ruie awkwardly asks how she guessed. They begin to discuss and talk furiously, while Wolf stands awkwardly between them. After the discussion, Charlotte says that it is now clear to her. She declares that she will help them too. Ruie asks if this is true. He knew she would believe them. He hugs her tightly, which makes Charlotte blush and asks her to wait. She asks with embarrassment what he is doing in public. Ruie tells her not to be shy. Wolf continues to stand awkwardly and look at them while his cheeks turn red. He turns to the couple and asks Charlotte why she decided to help them. She is the granddaughter of the hero. Her valor will suffer if she helps such a beastman, Kakan. Charlotte looks and is silent at first, and then asks not to talk nonsense. She says that abandoning people in trouble, on the contrary, hurts her valor. He awkwardly asks if this is really the case. She turns away and asks Wolf not to worry. She holds her sword and says with a sad face that she has nothing to do with discrimination against beastmen yet. Ruie says to come in quickly and get it over with as soon as possible. They open the door, breaking the chains from the inside. They look inside in surprise and freeze. They see a shelf with things and say that there are so many expensive things. There are chests of gold and bags of stones and jewelry on the shelves. Ruie says that the inside is wider than he thought. It looks like he's poking his nose into some dark business. Wolf touches the jewelry and says that, in his opinion, it's all stolen. He assumes that, apparently, this is a secret warehouse of a gang of thieves. Charlotte agrees with him and says that this is most likely the case. She says it's probably better to go tell the knights as soon as possible. Ruie says that probably, but it's too late to run. They turn around and see the doors closing abruptly. The muzzle of the guns is pointed at them. A lot of people surrounded them from all sides. One says he thought the knights had found them. He calls them babies and asks if they are really lost. The man all in gold says that his name is Ghoul. He is the leader of this gang. As they see, he is quite authoritative in the world of crime. Ruie looks at it and thinks in disappointment. Is he really the leader of the thieves? It seems that he makes a good living stealing. He examines all the gold again and declares that he will not allow money to be made from all this stolen. Guillem looks at him wearily and says that it seems to him that he has already seen him somewhere. He remembers, smiles and says that he was lucky. He claims that he did not think that his goal would come to him on its own. Ruie looks at him in surprise. He says he was lucky because his goal came to him on its own. Charlotte tenses up and prepares her sword. Ruie doesn't understand what other purpose he's talking about. Here Wolf aggressively shouts that he stole goods from a souvenir shop, and that he was suspected because of Guillem. The thieves are straining. Guillem is wondering what kind of souvenir shop. He remembers and says that it seems that one of his subordinates stole something from there. He points to the boxes and says it's all stacked there. Wolf makes sure that it is definitely them and promises that he will not forgive them. Guillem sarcastically apologizes to him. It looks like he got hurt. He asks him if he wants him to become his master as an apology. Wolf clenches his fist so that blood is coming out of his palm. He furiously asks what he is talking about. Guillem declares that everything is as he said. The beastmen need a master, and he just has one rich precedent for him. He goes on to say that people break down psychologically quickly, so they are not durable. Before the laws are tightened, he plans to make good money on it. Wolf shouts in anger who he thinks he is. Ruie stops him and says it's better not to. He explains that they want to make him angry. Charlotte agrees with him. So you can't give in to this. Wolf shouts at her to shut up and says that she looks down on him. She thinks that they are worse than them. At these words, tears come to Wolf's eyes. Then Ruie turns to him and confidently asks him not to think about it, because they don't think so. Wolf stops talking and looks at them in surprise. Charlotte and Ruie smile at him with a sincere smile. Ruie hopes that he understood them. Ruie raises his fists and says that he will repay him for Guillem hurting his friend. Guillem calls him a baby and asks what he's catching up on. He orders the thieves to deal with him. They all obey and ostentatiously crack their fingers as they approach Ruie. Ruie confidently looks at the bald thief. Guillem shouts at him just not to hit him in the face. If you sell him to people who love cute boys, they will get paid a lot. Ruie sticks out her tongue at him in disgust. The bald man holds out his hand to him, but immediately screams in pain. Guillem watches them in surprise, his smile fading. The bald man looks at his fingers, which are broken in turn and twisted in different directions. Ruie used a golden shell, namely taking away the fingers. Ruie realizes that they are not listening to him. Guillem tells everyone to leave and points a gun at him along with the rest of the thieves. They wonder who he is. Ruie asks him what happened, because his gun is shaking. Guillem shouts at him to shut up. Who is he holding him for anyway? He gives the command to shoot. Ruie says that he uses something to protect himself and friends. He uses Qigong, a two-defense technique called crane. A barrier appears around them, which stops the bullets. Wolf stands open-mouthed in surprise. This is the first time he has seen such a technique. The thieves say there are no more bullets. Here Ruie shouts that their chance is here. He asks Charlotte and Wolf to try not to damage the stolen goods. Ruie punches one, who retaliates. Then Charlotte helps with her sword. She turns to Ruie and asks to leave someone for her. They are all fighting thieves together. Wolf watches and admires. This is a sequence of attacks. They protect each other's blind spots. Guillem sees that they are losing and asks again who they are. He pulls out a gun and tells Wolf that at least he will take it with him. He screams at him to die. The bullet flies at him. Ruie excitedly turns to him and shouts to be careful, at the same time extending his hand. Wolf remembers the past. People tell him that they were waiting for him. They think he came late. He apologizes. Wolf did not understand and asked why he suddenly called him. He shirked the answer and said to come in faster. They come in. A man tells him to look. There are a lot of people in front of him. He pushes him towards them and says goodbye to him forever and wishes him good health. Wolf does not understand what is happening. One says that he wants to show his relatives such a poor abandoned beastman like him. He asks to be introduced to his friends. Everyone points guns at him. One guy tells him that he is lucky. They have become famous. Now they will be able to live even richer. Wolf then realizes that they want to sell him. He hears the words that his friends have money and that they will shelter him. Now they can all be happy. They asked him if he really thought he could make friends with people. He is furious and thinks what kind of friends they are. He decided for himself that he would no longer trust people, no one else. He then broke the pistols of these people. Here, in real time, Ruie screams at him to be careful and gets shot instead of Wolf. He looks at Ruie in horror. He groans from the bullet. Wolf excitedly asks if he's okay. Ruie asks Wolf if he is injured. He starts shouting in anger why he saved him. He hates them. Ruie starts saying that he's like Class Z to him. They're all the same as him. He smiles at him. He explains that they were born with strange talents. It happens that members of the race who should have powers do not have them. It happens that they are not accepted either. They were all alone. They all ran in search of a place for themselves. Wolf is surprised by such words. Ruie says he's not like that. He wants him not to be like that either, after getting to know the class and the teachers. They always pointed the finger at Wolf and said that he was just a beastman. He remembers all this. He reflects that he has always been the object of discrimination, but he certainly does not see someone beneath him. He thought that people considered him evil. He was discriminated against for being a beastman. Wolf stops talking when he hears Rye's words. Then Charlotte comes up to them and asks Rye if he's okay. She's going to cure him. He thanks her. Here she accepts to treat him, and Wolf gets up from his seat and tells them to rest. She will show them something, namely the real herself. He begins to transform, grows fur. He appears. He fully assumes the form of a wolf and says that he is better now. Charlotte looks and asks if this is really an atavism. She had heard of such a thing. A beast and a human being is a beastman. A long time ago, beastmen could easily change their appearance. She had heard that now a very small number of beastmen were born with this ability. She asks him if he is one of them. Wolf begins to howl long and loudly, looking up. He pushes off the ground with his paws, removes all thieves from the road. One thief in a panic shouts not to approach and shoots. Wolf dodges the bullet. Charlotte looks at him with admiration and says how fast he runs. Guillem realizes that things are bad. All his successors are unconscious. He starts to run away and goes to some wall. He begins to free a huge bird that sits in a cage in chains. The bird, exhausted, looks at him. Wolf sees and asks if this is really a wise parrot. He understands that he has such a rare species. Ghoul tells the parrot to take off faster. Does he really want to die? The parrot can't start flying. Then Wolf approaches and shouts from the side that he will not let this happen. Guillem shows a bottle with a potion and says that it is a rarity, but he will have to sacrifice it. He throws this bottle on the floor, shouting to deal with it. A purple liquid is spilled right in front of the wolf. The liquid begins to move and take on a certain silhouette. Everyone looks at the huge lump of jelly in surprise and does not understand what it is. They don't understand and ask what it is. Guillem laughs loudly and flies away on a parrot. He's not surprised that Wolf was scared. He says that this is a gluttonous slime, a very rare representative of slime. It sucks things into itself and becomes even bigger. Guillem says he didn't want to use him for Wolf's sake, but it was his own fault that he attacked him. Ghoul flies away, breaking the roof. Wolf shouts at him to stop. He says we need to catch up with him before he flies far away. Slime stands still. Then a certain hand comes out of him and reaches out to Wolf, who sees and dodges Slime's blow. Slime approaches the body of one thief, sucks it in. They scream in horror. Did he swallow it up? The human body is visible through the slime. Then he has several more hands that are ready to attack. Wolf runs away from his tentacles. Charlotte hugs Ruie and covers him with herself. She suddenly remembers something about gluttonous slimes. She says that they eat both people and things. They eat everything. He makes everything for himself with food. She claims that it is a monster of danger, rank A. Slime ruins everything around and absorbs every broken detail. Wolf screams that if he stays in this barn, he'll get sucked in too. He understands that he needs to go outside. They overlook an entire part of the roof. slime inside the room. They are relieved to say that now the slime will not reach them, but the roof breaks even more. Just the slime comes out. Wolf sees and wonders how to fight such a colossus. He tells Charlotte that even experienced adventurers fight with rank monsters in groups. Charlotte says the two of them won't make it. Ruie is shouting from behind so that they don't give up. If they don't stop him now, it will only get worse. Charlotte walks up to him and asks if he's okay. He forcefully says, clenching his fist, that thanks to her treatment, he was able to start moving. He sighs and causes his magic to freeze. Numerous ice crystals appear behind him. The slime begins to freeze and cover with ice around its circumference. He turns around and sees that it is Ruie. He abruptly points his tentacles at him while Ruie stands in a daze. Then Charlotte comes out saying that she also needs to stand out. She cuts Slime's tentacles with her sword. Slime makes sounds, and his tentacles multiply and increase. Thus, it covers the entire house they were in. The students standing on the other one are screaming in horror that he sucked up the whole barn. Wolf says we have to run before it's too late. Ruie says that this will not happen and refuses. Ruie turns to Charlotte and asks if she can stop him. She calls him a fool with a smile and asks who he is asking. She pulls out her sword, rests her heels on the surface, and then runs towards slime from above. While she is flying and the ice slime is approaching her, she uses Sakura's heroic heart technique. She smiles confidently, swings her sword using a flash of petals, thereby crushing the ice around the slime. Chunks of ice fly around and break with a crunch from her impact. She turns to Ruie and shouts that she leaves the rest to him. He holds out his hand and promises that he will not let her down. Its ice enlarges around the slime and covers it completely, along with the house and its huge tentacles. Wolf watches the anime and sincerely admires it. He tells them that they really stopped such a machine. They are standing on the roof. Wolf says that it remains only to catch up with him. Then Ruie suddenly falls down again, holding his stomach. Charlotte uses her magic and asks him not to overdo it. She explains to him that running with such a wound can kill him. Charlotte adds that he has probably already run very far away, so they won't find him. Ruie barely straightens up. His eyes are cloudy and tired. He forcefully says with a trembling voice that there must be some other way. Wolf listens to them, is silent, and then declares to both that he will be able to catch up with him. Ruie looks at him in surprise. Wolf says that he understands where he flew to by the smell. Therefore, Wolf asks Ruie if he will climb on it. Ruie looks at him for a long time and wants to somehow object to his proposal. He looks at Wolf with great surprise. He thinks to himself that if you climb on an animal or a beastman, then this is a sign that there is absolute trust between a human and a beastman. Then Wolf realizes what he's thinking and says that, to be honest, he can't trust all people yet, but he says they're different from others, and he's already figured it out. Charlotte and Ruie look at him in surprise. Wolf asks them not to think that he is doing them a favor, but asks them to help him. Ruie smiles, agrees to his proposal, and offers to defeat him together. Charlotte tells them that she will help those who were sucked in by that slime, and let them go and deal with him. They thank Charlotte for this. Ruie climbs on top of Wolf and tells him to ride forward with great confidence. A ghoul flies on a bird. In the process, he is all outraged about who they are, and he just had a path to the world of metropolitan crime. He says that okay, with the help of a bracelet that he found near the ruins in the capital, he will get out of the situation. He says there's a big stone on it. It's probably not just some kind of treasure. If you sell him with this bird, he will get a pretty good sum. The bird hears these words and smiles sadly. Guillem is furious and says that he will never forgive them. He plans to rebuild his gang and take revenge on them. He flies over the city. Wolf and Ruie see him and run across the roof. Ruie shouts that Guillem has already flown out of town. They are swearing at this thief. How dare he even think that he can escape from them? They jump on the walls, climb up. Ruie enjoys such a rental. They climb over the fence, crossing the border of the city. Ruie says that there is only a forest further on, and that there will be many obstacles, and it will be more difficult to catch up with him. Wolf asks Ruie what they will do. Ruie then suggests attacking him before they miss him. He uses the average force of gravity that the bird begins to fall down. Guillem curses. Why is he coming down? Let him fly harder. Ruie is glad that it worked. He says that everything is on him next, calling him a general. Ruie is flying straight to Guillem. He freezes in shock. Ruie wishes him a good day and says that they haven't seen each other for a long time. He screams how he got here. Ruie asks if he really thought he could escape from them. Ruie takes him by the collar, lifts him up and says that he will beat him properly. He prepares his fist and asks him with a smile if he is ready. He asks to wait and says that he can kill him that way. He starts saying that he will give him the money, and that he actually has a lot more with him. Ruie says he doesn't need it. He then offers magical items. He replies that he does not need stolen items. Gulam then offers to give him the women. He promises that they are all very beautiful. He grins, apologizes, and says he doesn't need it. He confidently says that he already has his own sweet girlfriend. He keeps asking me to wait. Ruie disobeys and uses a hammer made of a golden kigong shell. He strikes that the drone flies far away. Ruie says that now you can relax. He strokes the bird, apologizes for scaring it, and asks if it can land. The bird happily agrees. They land. Wolf tells Ruie to watch. He shows that he took everything from Gulam. Ruie says that he caught him. He is modest and sighs. He says that he made sure himself that it would fly away in his direction. He asks Ruie. He trusts him. He says with a grin that he doesn't know what he's talking about. Everyone is smiling, including the bird. Ruie offers to go after Charlotte because she still saves thieves. Wolf transforms into a human and agrees with Ruie. Ruie examines Gulam and notices something. He sees the same bracelet with red stones. Wolf sees his reaction and asks him if something really happened. He says that it's nothing like that and offers to go. They come to Charlotte, who pulls out the thieves. Wolf sees and says that the knights have just arrived. Ruie says it's obvious. It happened here. They see and say that the group of thieves seems to be fine too. The knights escort the thieves. Ruie tells Wolf then to go and prove that he is innocent. Charlotte pays attention to them. She waves her hand at them. Yuri orders the knights to make a damage report. Another knight comes up to him and hands him the plan. He swears at Ruie that he's always doing something. Ruie says he got mad at him again. Wolf apologizes to him for involving him in this. Ruie says that Yuri seems to have suffered from thieves himself, saying that they even made it hard in the stomach. Yuri says in anger that the next time they are reported, then he hears them. Wolf hears and asks if he is okay. Here a joyful bird flies to Ruie. The bird cuddles up to him, puts his head so that he strokes. The knights don't understand and get scared. Wolf listens to him and tells Ruie that it looks like he wants to become his bird. Ruie looks at and strokes the bird. The bird says something. Ruie asks Wolf if he understands what he is saying. Wolf replies that he understands. He has atavism. He says that he is more a beast than a beastman, somehow understands what the animals are saying. Ruie is surprised. Ruie says that then he will ask if he can borrow it from the hostel manager. The bird is telling him something. He wonders why he likes him so much. Wolf says he thinks he knows why. Ruie listens to him attentively. He says that the bird feels great strength in him, which cannot be in such a small body. There is silence. Wolf says again that he still did not understand why he was always helping everyone. Ruie says he may be strong now, but he couldn't do anything before. He remembers and says that he was not good at anything. He says that one day he had teachers, from whom he learned a lot of new things. How to use magic, wisdom, survive, and also learned kindness and love, and so he became full of everything from them. So he decided that he would be the one to give. Wolf is surprised and asks him again. Ruie says that's why he's now teaching everyone what he was taught, even though he's already taught them a lot. Here Wolf abruptly kneels in front of him. Ruie is shocked by such actions. Wolf says that this pose means complete obedience for the beastman. He says that he has fallen in love with his spirit. He asks him to make him his attendant. Ruie doesn't understand who needs to be made. Ruie refuses and offers to just become his friend. Wolf says that he may need his power in the future. Of course, he is not against simple friendship, but inside his soul, he still wants to serve him. Ruie looks at him in surprise. He agrees, but adds that he will still treat him like a friend. Wolf is surprised by his agreement. He's so happy about this. Charlotte comes and says how friendly they have become. She says thank God he has proof of innocence. Then she suddenly bends down in front of him and asks him for forgiveness. She says that she may have a connection with the discrimination of beastmen. Wolf looks at her questioningly. The ogre wanted to get rid of the discrimination of the beastmen, but he died halfway through. This case should have been completed by his heirs, but they did not have the abilities. Using this as an excuse, they wouldn't have done anything about it if her ancestors had done something. Wolf turns to Charlotte, holds her shoulder, and tells her to keep her head up. She raises her tear-stained eyes. Wolf thanks her for thinking about his race. He asks her to stop tormenting herself with thoughts about it. He explains that it's not just because of her ancestors. His race is also to blame for something. Charlotte wants to object. Wolf says that, thanks to them, he noticed that it was necessary to study each other's races more. Therefore, they too, in his opinion, should study the beastman race more. He asks her if she can contribute to this in any way. She wipes her tears and says that she will definitely do it. She will definitely try, because she is the granddaughter of the hero. They shake hands. After a while, someone throws away their black gloves in anger. The blonde man in his chambers is angry at Gulam, who was caught. He had just bet a lot of money by spreading information about the knights. He is angry that he still met him and lost. He begins to reason that if the knights are told about him, then he is definitely finished. There seems to be nothing left but to hire a killer. Someone agrees with him and says it's a good idea. It's amazing that he's already dealing with criminal organizations at his age. Then that respected man turns in horror and does not understand why an outsider is in the room. He locked himself in. A man with a sheep mask wishes him a good evening. The one with a trembling voice says that he is that beastman. He asks if he has forgotten him. His name is Spike. He says he made them friends with Gulam. He says that it is clear to him and asks if he also hurried here after learning that he had been caught. He asks Thorn if he can kill him on his own. He knows a lot of skilled killers. Spike asks him why he needs it. Because he is already dead. With these words, he hands him the severed head of a ghoul. The man pulls away from him in horror. Spike says that now he won't tell about him, but since he's missing, the knights will start an investigation, and so they can find out about his connections with him. He gets scared and immediately asks if he really came to shut him up next. He objects and says that he comes from a first-class aristocratic family. He says he can't just die. Spike asks him to wait and appears right behind him, saying that he hasn't finished yet. He sticks his palm into the aristocrat's stomach so that his hand passes through his body. The aristocrat is bleeding. Spike says he's done a lot of things. He takes his body with him and says that it is better to leave the capital for a while. He says that he actually wanted to meet Ruie, but it seems like another time. He says that everything will be as the creator wishes. Wolf tells us that he has now become his first servant. He introduces himself. His name is Wolf Blackbite. He is glad to see them again. Everyone looks at each other and does not understand what is happening. Ruie tells him to wait, because everyone will just be shocked by this. Wolf apologizes and adds that he prefers to speak directly. Ruie says that there was another way to say that they kind of became friends. Burn screams that he didn't even open his mouth, and now he's saying this. Wolf gets angry and shouts too. Does he really not like something? He screams, which of course he doesn't like, because he is his best friend. Wolf says it's clear to him, however, that there can only be one best. Burn says that he seems to be a fool, but he says logical things. He says that he is like that. Bayan says he's kind of shrewd enough to be his minion, but he's number one to him. He takes a glove out of his pocket, throws it at Wolf, and announces a duel. Who catches it and agrees. Against the background, Teacher Legas is going crazy from this behavior. Tisha and Ruie stand awkwardly aside. Tisha asks Ibuki if it is possible to follow them. He says that of course it is possible. Ruie wonders if it was worth separating them. Charlotte says that it will be easier for them after the duel. Suddenly someone calls Ruie. Yuri stands and wants to say something about the bracelet. He says he was appreciated. He says that it seems to have been found in ruins abroad. That is, it is not stolen, but it is still unknown who made it, and for what purpose. Ruie perceives the information normally. Charlotte next to him shouts why he brought him here. Yuri does not understand what is wrong. Charlotte screams in fright that it's an ogre's bracelet. Yuri and Ruie stand in complete silence with their mouths open. Yuri clarifies if this is the bracelet of the ogre hero. Charlotte confirms this and says to look at the inside of the bracelet. She says that a flower is engraved on the ogre's things, it's a family secret, so she asks not to tell anyone. Ruie stands there and thinks he knew it. It's the key. It's exactly the key that Oka was talking about. He remembers and says that his feeling did not let him down then. He turns to Yuri and Charlotte and asks if they can lend it to him. They are surprised, but Charlotte says that, in principle, they can give it to him. Yuri says that if she agrees, then he doesn't mind either. Ruie thanks them. He thinks it's better not to remove the seal right now, so we should try not to touch him directly. Charlotte turns to Ruie and asks why he needs it. He begins to doubt and gives out that he wants to study it. Charlotte looks at him suspiciously. She accepts this and asks him to tell her when he can do it. Ruie looks at me warmly and says that someday he will definitely tell me. Yuri giggles and says that he would like to know too. Ruie shouts that of course he will tell them. At night, a parrot flies to Rui's window and asks him to play. Ruie calls him Steam and apologizes because he has business today. The bird is sad. Ruie immediately offers her to play tomorrow. She flies away. Ruie closes the window with thoughts. As Wolf said, he is wise. This wise parrot, whom he saved from a thief by asking the head of the hostel to leave the ferry. He called him that. The cleaner wondered if even Yuri had allowed him. He was told that he could leave it in the nearest forest. The other tenants liked him too. He thinks it's good that he saved him. Ruie closes the curtains and is about to start his own business. There is an ogre's bracelet on the table. He takes the bracelet in his hands, puts it on, after which the bracelet immediately begins to burn brightly. He closes his eyes against the brightness. Suddenly, he wakes up again in an endless hell and wonders which floor he got to this time. He looks around and says that maybe there is someone hostile here, so he needs to be careful. He sees someone's footprints and is surprised. He sees his sister and Rio in front of him. They are surprised. One even lets out a tear.